Good morning and good evening to all of you. It is my pleasure today to speak to each one of you about something that is really close to my heart. And I would like to thank Product School to have given me this opportunity to share my thoughts with a wider audience. And let's begin with our topic for today. So the topic for today is, so you want to be a product manager. So this is for all of you who would like to move into a PM role or are already into a PM role and maybe early in your career or early in the PM role itself. So I'll be taking you through a plethora of things in today's talk, and I think you will find it interesting. Before we begin, a short disclaimer from my end. So, what all I'll be sharing with you is essentially my real life learnings. I may share some anecdotes with you. You may or may not like everything that I say, so please feel free to drop what you don't agree with, and feel free to take away, something that you relate to and you feel a likeliness for, right? One more thing, I have used. I would say some photographs during this presentation. Most of them are taken from a website called Unsplash, which is an amazing source for for all crowdsourced images, and it is really. I mean, it's like I would say it's like a service to the mankind. You get so many good images from everyday people like us, right? So do check it out. Not a promo for them, but certainly something which I really like. Um, Okay, so now who am I, right? So I am Hitesh Sharma. The thing that you see on the screen is basically something that I would like to call as my brand statement per se. I believe that everybody should have some sort of a brand statement, right? Something that defines them. If somebody asks you in an elevator, what do you do or who are you, right? You should be able to sum it up in few sentences. For me, it's like I believe that I'm a highly empathetic product leader who's always learning, loves listening to people, and adept in storytelling to audiences at all levels. Now you see that I've highlighted few words, and I think this is really what defines me, right? I have a lot of empathy. I believe I'm a leader. By the way, I am still in an IC role, and nobody reports to me in Microsoft. But you can be a leader without a title, right? A leader and a manager are different things, and I hope each of you understand it. So, whatever you do, do it good, do it with authority, and you are a leader anyways. Um, I'm always learning. I love listening to people and I love storytelling. Maybe that's why I'm doing this talk as well. I love stage presence and all those related things. I have worked through different companies in the past 10 years. The latest one being Microsoft, where I am a senior product manager. I'm an engineer by degree, and I love motorcycles. I just go gaga over single cylinder thumpers, right? So it's like a therapy for me, riding motorcycles. Anyways, enough about me. Let's move forward. Um, this is something what I call the soul of the entire talk, right? Why even I'm doing something like this. Um, so what I've noticed, over the past so many years of my PM career is that there are certain things which are good, bad, and ugly about it. The good thing is that there is no degree requirement for being a PM. You don't need to do a specific bachelor's or master's or a PhD to become a product manager, which is a very good thing because almost anyone can become a PM irrespective of the education that you have had in the past. So which opens up the doors to so many people. The bad thing, and now I just use good, bad, and ugly, but this is not bad in the bad terms, but PMs, they do different things in different companies. In fact, those of you who are working in big organizations, you would also see that the PM role differs in between different product teams as well. Um, what this means is that it makes it slightly confusing to define what the PM role essentially is. If you read books alongside product management, you would see a lot of explanations around what a PM role should be, so many skills that a PM should be doing. You will see a caricature of a human along with different stuff that a PM does. right from marketing to pricing and defining the roadmap and all those stuff, cross-functional collaboration and all those things. But still, if you talk to different PMs, they'll tell you different versions of things that they do on a daily basis. So there is still a slight confusion, and I think it'll remain so, because I think the PM role is still, it is well defined, but there is still some haziness in between the companies and how it is defined. Um, the ugly part, and this is something that is really concerning me off lately, is that there is a lot of glamour around the PM role in the recent times, and I think a part of this glamour is also because, um, just a sec, let me just reset my stopwatch to just to see that I don't lose out on time. Okay, this is good. So So where I was saying that there is a lot of glamour around the role suppressing the real stuff. And when I say the real stuff, is that what does a PM do on a day-to-day basis? What you should be looking forward to when you actually move into the role, right? Apart from it being supposedly a hot job today, right? So let me move forward with it. Okay, so what are the takeaways from this session that you can certainly, be assured of taking along with you? So the first thing is, and probably that's why you're also attending this session, because I think this was mentioned in the registration page or something like that. The first thing is, I'll talk about some of the things that they don't tell you about being a PM. This is also a kind of a bait for all of you, because some of these things may be relatable to you and may not be entirely new, but again, you would be hearing my perspective on them. And the other thing is, some skills that I think are really important if you want to move into a product management role and craft a career out of it. And then how do you land a role eventually? um, for most of these things, at least for 2 and 3, you will have a lot of resources over the internet which you can always refer. But maybe my advice would also come in handy along with that. So what they don't tell you about a PM role in general, let's dive in. The first thing that I think that I've experienced so far in my career is that a product management role in general, and if you are a product manager, is really a hustle every single day. You have to keep pushing for things to make them happen, from ideation to essentially shipping something so that the value gets delivered to your end users and customers. You have to push every single day, towards somewhat closure of the things. You may have smaller wins during the day. For example, um, let's just say you were able to convince all the stakeholders in a cross-functional team meeting about something that you want them to do, or something, how the product should be looking like, what this feature should be looking like, how the prototype should be, and blah blah blah. That is a win. You will feel happy about it. It is unlike maybe a software engineering role where if your code runs, you become happy, right? That's not the way how PM role works. It's like there could be small wins, but there is essentially a hustle. A lot of people will bank upon you to take decisions because you own certain decisions at the end of the day, even if there is a collective wisdom behind driving those decisions. So there would be a decision fatigue. Sometimes you'll just go, what do I do now? And I have to, I mean, you wouldn't think you have to take so many decisions, but you are, implicitly, or even at the back of your brain, at the back of your mind, you are taking decisions. So I believe there is sometimes a decision fatigue that also kicks in. At times, there is a mad rush to just get things done. For example, let me give you something really fresh, and I hope my boss is not listening to this. So I got an email from him, in the evening, or late evening per se my time, that hey, by tomorrow 9 a.m., can you just put one or two slides about something that I'm working on, because it needs to be shown somewhere, or shared with some execs and those sort of things. Now this certainly derails your things a bit, because you weren't prepared for it. So, so sometimes there could be mad rush. Sometimes there could be mad rush when, say, a pre-sales team is doing a pitch to a customer, and the customer really turns up with, some point from a competitor's product. This product does this. Can you do it? And now they may not be aware, so they'll come back to you. Hey, can we do it? Can you put up something in a one slide, two slide, and you are just like, your entire plans are gone, right? What you were really working on. So there could be mad rush. You have to be prepared for it. So just not warning you, just making you aware the reality of a PM role. And it is exciting, by the way. I'm not dementing it in any manner. Anyways, this is something which is very close to me. Often I hear statements, I read about it whenever I read the word PM role, is that um, a product manager in general is the CEO of the product or the service if you own a service and blah blah blah. I believe I don't agree with it. Why? Because sometimes I have seen even with candidates, and even when I'm reading it myself, it gives a slight smell of arrogance. Whenever you say that somebody is the CEO of something, right? So a CEO, if this image comes to your mind, that somebody who is suited up and buttoning up and stuff like that, and that's how you visualize a PM being uh, a CEO of a product, I'll say that's a wrong thinking. Just get away with that, right? Rather, what I would like you to believe is that a CEO essentially is what you see on the right hand side. Somebody who, not a CEO, but a PM is something that you see on the right hand side. Someone um, who is like a gardener, who is nurturing a plant, which essentially is your product, using several resources which are already there, procuring some if they are not in place, along with other people. You will have so many people working on your farm, and who will be making things happen for you, and eventually you will grow something which will deliver end value to consumers. So this is what my thinking is, that a product manager is like a gardener who is nurturing things. He's like a caretaker, a guardian of things, but not essentially a CEO. I mean, I wouldn't say CEOs have arrogance. Please, uh, pardon me if I sound like that, but I would. Whenever you hear this term CEO of a product, think about the picture on your right. Something else that you will face very often, especially if you are very new into the role, and also if you are very new into the industry itself. Imposter syndrome. So, how many times have you felt that whatever you are doing or whatever position you are in, you are not supposed to be there? Maybe it was just by luck. Maybe you just happened to be in place and you got selected in a certain company. You're working in a certain position and stuff like that, and you don't hold that medal in yourself. That's what the imposter syndrome is. That you are an imposter every day, and whatever you are, showing to the world, you are not that, right? So basically, for a PM also, when you are new to the role, you have to answer a lot of things. You are the go-to person, right? Everybody will make you the go-to person for your product for every single question. But the thing to remember is that you don't need to know everything, right? Um, you will not be able to know everything either ways, but you should know that who knows that particular thing, whether that question is for somebody in your legal team. So you should loop them in or redirect the person who has asked that to you to the concerned person, or for somebody in marketing or pricing, and those sort of things. So you have to connect all these strings together and all the dots and everything, but you don't need to know everything, right? So just remember it, when you move into the role, or if you're already in a PM role on a day-to-day basis, you are engaged in conversations where you have to give answers, and you don't own any of that, but you have to stand your ground and tell very firmly that I'll get back to you, right? And you can. Okay, let's move forward. Another thing which I see sometimes is that um, your business terminologies and all those things doesn't always work. You know, when you are interacting with cross-functional teams and trying to assert yourself and bring your ideas and those sort of things. For example, the job of a PM, or maybe I can even say the only job of a PM, is to create clarity with respect to what the customer needs, what a user needs, what we should be building, right? You can always make this complex by bringing in other things. For example, if you do a certain thing, what will be the growth in your monthly active users? Something like that. So, usually we have this habit of tying everything to a result, which is not wrong. I mean, OKR model has been there for a long time and it is good, but um, you should do away with numbers at times, especially when you are solving problems, because sometimes there could be newer problems for which you may not be always able to link numbers with them. So do away with the numbers. Specifically, if you come from a business background, you would have certain affinity to numbers, to engagement numbers and quality numbers and stuff like that. But keep them aside for certain times. Love the problems, love problem solving, create clarity, bring in your new fresh ideas, um, honor the ideas of others, and that's how you can drive things in a much better way. Okay, so this is another thing what nobody would tell you, but the business terminologies and the business BS, as I say, doesn't always work. Another thing, how many of you have read this thing that a PM should be able to say no? A PM should be able to say no to everything uh, except the one thing that's really valuable. Let me tell you something. Um, it is very hard to say no in real life. A lot of people would be pushing in their own ideas and their own thought process of what they think the product should be in the immediate future, or say in the near future, and you may not always be able to push back, right? But again, as I told you that mm that this was a bait per se for you, that what they don't tell you, but I would go back on this statement that yes, you should be saying no, because if you don't say no, you will make your life miserable. If you always try to become a yes person, you have to deal with so many things at one point in time, and you will be able to make your life as well as the product miserable as well. So you have to safeguard the roadmap. So say no with data, right? With evidence. Okay, so that was my list of sharing with you that what the things that nobody tells you about being a PM, right? What the realities of the role are. So the realities of the role, just to recap on top of my mind, some of them are, it's a daily hustle. You have to be prepared to hustle daily, to push things on a daily basis to get them to completion. The other thing is CEO of the product. You know what a CEO of the product now is, right? So you are a gardener and not essentially somebody with a buttoned up suit. Um, and then, yeah, nobody says no. So learn to say no. Otherwise, you will make your life and the product both miserable. And the other thing is, oh, I forgot what I said earlier. Anyways, let's move ahead. So now, let me talk about some of the skills or some things that you should be doing. How you can, not how, but what skills will take you there, what skills will enable you to be a better product manager. All right, you can develop these if you are still not in the PM role and want to go there, or if you're already a early career PM, you can just reflect whether you are having these skills or not and how you can develop them. Nice. So the usual suspects: These are all the skills. What, when I looked upon the internet, the product manager skills, I I browsed on a link from Indeed.com, which is a job search site, and they listed these skills. A PM should have all of these skills, which are listed on your screen: communication, marketing, analytical, strategic thinking, prioritization, blah blah blah, all these things. And this is all over the place. These are important, no doubt about it. But if you ask me, what is this one skill um, without which you absolutely cannot success in a PM role? I'll say it's empathy. Empathy is the most important skill, if you ask me, for being a product manager. And empathy should be both inwards and outwards. You should be very, very empathetic towards your everyday users and customers, their problems. What do they want to achieve if they buy your product, if they are using it for a very long time? How is it helping them in their day to day life? Right? Maybe your product is reducing their manual work, to be in very simpler terms, and helping them to leave for home on time from work, right? So that's something of a real value. So all of these things comes from empathetic nature. Whenever a customer logs a bug, many times we have this tendency to shoot it down. Hey, they have a workaround, so why should we fix it? It's not a P0, it's basically a P4 or something, or whatever P it is, so that you don't have to pick it up for the next 2 years. And I think that's a very bad approach to see things. I would say talk to the customer, understand how is the particular problem affecting them, um, and what will happen if we don't fix it, right? So those sort of things. So empathy is really important, and the other part is inwards. So how is empathy important inwards? Is that you should have empathy towards the people who you are working with. So if you push something on the engineering team, so let me give you an example, right? So once I was faced with a situation where I was asked to deliver something in few weeks, so that we can win a deal over a competition. So not a very polished stuff, but something that showcases that we have the capability to deliver something at the end of the day. And I had to really push the engineering team to do it. Now I had two options, either to make them understand the importance of something that needs to be done, so that they also feel that this is something that is really important, and they put in their sweat to work on it, and also feel accomplished at the end of it. Or the other way is to just tell them, hey, this needs to be done, and end of the discussion. So I think the former one is a better approach. It makes you feel more connected with the people who are around you, because everybody is human, and that's how you should approach a PM role. Have empathy, build it if you don't have it. Thick skinned, another thing. Many times you will be criticized in meetings. Why? Because you are the one who is also calling the shots at the end of the day. If you bring in the ideas, then you are also responsible and accountable for facing criticism, if at all, for them. You know, so people will ask you many questions. They'll sometimes shoot your approach down and all those sort of things. Don't be disheartened. Be a little thick-skinned. Things happen, and it's part and parcel of the PM role. That's the only thing perhaps that I would like to say for this thing. So develop some thick skin. Another thing is that sometimes when you are a younger PM in a role, and these days I see a lot of new young blood coming into the product management profession as such, which is amazing. I mean, I see so many good ideas being shared across, to me and to the other people, and this is really fantastic. You don't have everybody who is an oldie being a PM. It's very nice to have young people, young grads, looking towards the PM role. One thing is, you will be presenting your ideas to all the way higher up to the management, to so many people around, and you have to convince so many people to get funding for taking something to the market, right? And at times this needs courage. Oftentimes this needs courage. You have to be courageous. You have to stand your ground if you have the data and you are convinced that something that you are proposing is path breaking for the company and for the customers. So you have to be fearless. You own the roadmap. The roadmap of your product is your baby. You have to protect it. And you have to protect the interest of your customers at the end of the day. So sometimes there is always this trade off that goes on. Is it important for a company or not? Or, you know, whether we should even invest in this direction. Always keep your customer interest out there. People who are already your customers, their interest, and then folks who you want to be your customer, want them to be your customers, their interests as well. And that's how you can also shape your roadmap and eventually, convince other people. But be fearless. Even if your ideas got, shot down, it's okay. But be courageous and fearless. That's another thing, that can take you there. Um, Nice. So we are now at the last section of the presentation. So the last section is, let me again just have a look at my timer so that I don't run you over time. So the last section is, how do you land the role, right? What should you be doing to move into a PM role? I get asked this couple of times. I wouldn't say people just bombard me with queries. How do we go to a PM role? But sometimes, occasionally, maybe twice in a week or something, I get some emails around from people, and certain advices I give to them based upon my own experience. I'll just share them with you as well. The first thing, and I think the simplest thing to do, is to network inside your own workplace. Don't be shy. So don't think that you are not a PM, or maybe you are someone junior into the company, and you would, if you reach out to somebody who is, say, a PM leader or a very senior PM, then what will they think about, and so, those sort of things. Just do away with that. So reach out inside the company. People are more than willing to share their knowledge with you than you even think of. All right. So everybody likes to expand their collective horizons, like we are doing now, and just make most out of the opportunity. Try to be a PM without a title. So try to own certain things within your current product, no matter what your role is. But at least um, get certain hold on the areas. Try to talk to a few customers, even if you are, say, a software engineer or a UX person anyways, I think they talk to the customers. But sometimes you would see junior software engineers not being so conversant with the customers, and they often think that it's a PM's job. Try to get your place there, talk to customers, build that empathy, build that connect, and it'll help you to land a role. Another advice which I give to many people, but so I think most of them don't take it from me, is that move out of the company. If you're not finding something within your own organization and you want to move to a PM role, try outside. There are a lot of openings outside. Prioritize your role over the company. Try to move outside as a PM, and maybe you can always come back if you love your company so much, if they value you so much, and worth taking the shot. It's your life. You got only one life. The another thing is, you have to. Everybody has the aspiration of moving into a PM role, like I had once, and you also have now. Maybe that's why you are watching this. So the first thing is, don't always tell, whenever you are sending an application for a PM role job, or talking to someone. Don't tell them I want to become a PM. Um, I don't know about your respective job markets, but when you have so many candidates available, who can do that job, who might have done it earlier, um, a lot of people don't bet upon your career aspirations, and this is the hard truth. And I'm sorry to tell you that, right? People always try to minimize the risk, and they'll go in for experienced candidates who have already been doing a PM role, right? So you have to spin stories. Tell people that you have been a PM in a reduced capacity, maybe without a title, but you were doing certain aspects of the work itself. You were talking to customers. That's one of the things that a PM does. You were helping the existing PM with the roadmap, right? Maybe you are doing some wireframing. So there could be so many things that you could be doing, even though you don't have a PM title. So that's how you should present yourself. Again, very important step. I see a lot of people, even myself, failing to do it. Is that follow-ups? People don't follow up on their emails. You send an email to somebody, saying that, hey, I want to be a PM, or I'm already a PM and I want this job, and blah blah blah. but you don't hear back, and then you fail to follow up. People don't read first time emails, a lot of them. I personally know somebody who only reads a second follow up on the email. That's a bad thing to do, but then you cannot change people, right? You can only change how you respond to things. So always follow up with the second email, maybe within 2 weeks, right? After 2 weeks, follow up. Hey, do you have any update for me? And then close out on that. Otherwise, don't consider everything as closed if you don't hear for the first time. Okay, so this was all that I had. We are um, a little bit over 30 minutes in this talk, but I think it was worth it. I really love talking to all of you, and I hope that you will find the stuff that I've discussed in this talk helpful. If you would like to connect with me, I have shared my LinkedIn ID there, and I'll be happy to answer any follow up questions that you may have. Thank you so much. Be safe, be healthy, and keep smiling.